Robert, this is Dr. Jester getting to your week 2 paper on Judaism. So I wanted to talk to you about that. Of course, here you have the directions for that. Major historical background, going through that, subgroups, principal text, major beliefs, fundamental practices, and then some evaluation and some interpersonal implications, internal response. As we look at that, now, last week when I had you revise this, one of the things that I mentioned was that you had some quotes. And in looking through your new document, the quotes were not changed. I don't know if you resubmitted the same document, but it's relatively unchanged from the first time around. The same mistakes are in all of this. It's all the same. So the quote is still present, incorrect. That quote, incorrect. And all the other problems the document had. Now, I want to talk to you briefly about what's good. What's good is that you have gone through and you've talked about the essential things. You've talked about the background, the development. You've given a little history, the principal text. You've given some of the major beliefs. The biggest problem here, you've heard of the old saying that you can't see the forest for all the trees, which is basically another way of saying it's the little details that keep one from seeing the big picture. And that's kind of the problem here. A reader going through your document is running onto so many issues with the grammatical construction of the paper that they're having trouble focusing on what you're trying to say because of the way that you're actually communicating it. One of the best ways to solve that is just to read the document out loud, where you will see the errors that you're making, where you have verbs that do not agree with your nouns. For example, right in here, I added some information. Any time you see a capital letter in my red period, you had some run-ons. You were just trying to string together a lot of thoughts, placing commas when you need to be starting new sentences, because basically it's a shift in thought, creates a lot of confusion in the reader's mind. So here's what I did. Here's the way that read before. It says, when scholars think about Judaism, it's in the history where they find keys in understanding someone. Look at the Bible, they may find many events that transpired essentially religious reasons. So I've supplied some things in there to make that a little clearer. So looks instead of look, events instead of event, the missing word for, and there's all kinds of personal, first person, second person usage in here, and that's one of the things that I've consistently said since the beginning of class. Do not use first person, and it's all through your document. Do not use any of that. And here's that. When you're writing, you're trying to communicate your ideas clearly. Everyone makes mistakes when they're writing. Best way to correct that, again, read it out loud. As you read out loud, you'll see those subject-verb disagreements and those kind of things. And when you shift from one subject to the other, here you just stop on history lays a foundation as to the deity of God, and then immediately talk about subgroups. Well, that's just a total shift in substance. And so you're asking your reader to just jump from one thing to the next without preparing them for that. So you have to provide some kind of transition to that. Work through your subject. Make sure that everything logically flows together from one subject to the next that enables your reader to understand what you're talking about. One of the other things that we've got going on here that's really a problem. This is one time when you place the footnote correctly at the end of the sentence. Then just a little further on, you've got footnote 12. You went from 1 to 12 right here. It should be number 2. And it does not go in the middle of a sentence. It always goes at the end of a sentence when you're doing footnotes. And if you look down here, this again is not the proper format. I've been encouraging people to read the style guide. There's a reason we have a style guide. It's to show you how to do it correctly. If you don't read the style guide, you're going to get these kind of things. It's insufficient just to place the website address in there. You have to tell the date that you accessed it. You look for the author of that. If there's no author, you start with the title and you list in when the publication of the article took place and when you accessed it. You have to have a specific date that you accessed it. That way, if someone looks this up and the website address is not working, they know at least according to you, it was working on that date when you saw it. Okay? So a lot of things in here that need clarification. You've got a term here, 13 principles of faith, yet you don't explain it. So a lot of this is just putting together some logical consistencies in your way of writing, in your way of communicating, getting rid of all those issues. And again, this is incorrect. Let me just show you here. So all of this should be centered text. I'm sorry, not centered, left margin justified. Just like so. None of that should be centered. The second part of that, the first line is flush left. Second part is going to be indented just like that. Okay? And always make sure you put a period there. And that's incomplete, and that is incomplete. So still major problems that I don't see where much adjusting was done. It looks really just like the same old document. However, this is your only resubmission, and just let this be something you do. And please, Robert, by all means, please do this. Please go to the Resources tab, go to Add-ons. That will bring up a menu item. Right here, you see a menu item that I have placed in here for you before the class started. There is the Turabian Style Guide. We're going to open that. That's going to take us to a new window. And here immediately you're going to see the Style Guide open up. It gives you the paper format. It tells you what to say and what not to say. There are some general things. Notice it says, unless otherwise directed by the instructor or the nature of the assignment calls for first person, papers are to be written in formal academic style using third person. First and second pronouns are not acceptable. So it plainly says it there. If people would just read that, we wouldn't have some of these issues continually crop up. That gives you some outlines, some basic mechanics, and then it's going to go over here and give you punctuations, what you are to capitalize. For instance, all through your document, Bible is not capitalized. I did a couple of those. Tells you what things to do there, some other general information. And then further on here, it's going to give you some examples. There are examples. There's the note example style. There is the second quotation of that. You use the shortened form. If you quote, for example, right here, it's Tozer. If your first footnote is Tozer, you give full information. And if your second footnote is Tozer, but a different page number, you put IBID, meaning from the same or same location, page 62. If it's Tozer and the same page number, number 60, you just put IBID. So those are some examples. And further on, it's going to give you a list of website authors somewhere in here, electronic format. So it starts talking about them. But please just read that. That's going to help you with their style. It'll help you with your reading and writing. Read that out loud, and that's going to help you improve your work.